the school level, not just for the athletic program. There's something like 1,500 individuals, and only half of them are athletes, that were able to get assistance, let's call it, had their papers written potentially, and or their tests taken for them potentially, supposedly. So, and this dates back to the early to mid 90s, this investigation. So yeah, Roy Williams got his third title. That's great. It sounds awesome. But at the end of this investigation, do all three of his titles get stripped? We'll have to see. And that sucks for Gonzaga, because in hindsight, you look back at it, if the report comes out, if this investigation decides that UNC does have wrongdoing, if their program should be punished for this, then they shouldn't have been in the tournament in the first place. Then does Gonzaga win their first national title? The what-ifs of sports. The what-ifs with the human error factor of refs. What if the refs called that game better? Does Gonzaga pull it out? We'll never know. And you can't go back and change it. And we'll talk about something to do with that here in a little bit too, that really, you might want to cover your ears when we get to this one in a little bit. About how you can't go back and change the outcome of something that has already happened. And why it's just not a good idea. It's just not. All right, this Westbrook-Harden situation, here's how I see it, flat out. I'm going to put it out there, this is how I see it. You take each guy off the team. Whose team's going to be better? Houston, in my opinion, has the better team if you take Harden off and Westbrook off of the Thunder. Now you look at the records, in my opinion. Houston's got a better record than the Thunder do. So one of those teams would still potentially be in the playoffs without their player. The other one would not. So based on how I've explained to you guys many times over, the most valuable player, it's not a popularity contest. It's not who's more exciting to the media or who ESPN likes to promote better. It's the most valuable player to their team. That's what Russell Westbrook. This season. You can take both of those guys off their squads. Houston probably still squeezes in at a 7th or 8th seed. The Thunder, they're not in. They're fighting right now maybe with the Nuggets to try and get the 8th seed, or they're below that, if anything. Now I get the arguments, hey, Russ is putting up the stats because his teams are letting him get rebounds. They're letting him do this. Well, that's the offense of that team. That's how you take and you build around your best player. That's what the Thunder have done. They have identified their best player, Russell Westbrook. What's his skill set? This. What's he do best? This. What do we do best? Complement. And it's got him into the 7th seed, 6th seed maybe. He's got the triple doubles. He's going to break Oscar Robinson's record. He's tied him. He's got 4 games, I think, 3 or 4 games left on the season, 2 of them against the Nuggets. I think he gets at least the 42nd triple-double before the playoffs start. I really do. I think the MVP is his this year. A couple weeks ago, you would have asked me, I would have said split it. Now, to me, it's undeniable. You can't diminish what he's able to be done this season. I think he will continue to play this way based on how that team is built until he leaves Oklahoma City, and I do think he also leaves Oklahoma City. I think Russell Westbrook will finish his career in one of the bigger markets, whether that is L.A., New York, Chicago, Miami. I see him finishing his career somewhere else. Sorry, I do. And he's going to continue to be Russ. He's going to continue to try and put up all the points. He's going to continue to try and get all the rebounds. He's going to continue to be the assist guy. He's the point guard. Jamal Murray, I was watching him play in the Nuggets-Pelicans game the other night. Jamal Murray looked like he's trying to play like Russell Westbrook. He needs to play like Jamal Murray. So my MVP, I'm going to go with it. Is it a popularity vote? A little bit. They're going to go Russell Westbrook. He's exciting. He's the one they can put up the stats. They can do all the promos on because of all the stuff he's doing. He's got that good guy, bad guy, split personality almost, to where he's so focused and driven, but at the same time, you're going to see him laugh and clown. And, you got to give it to him. Averaged a triple-double. Jordan didn't do it. Kobe didn't do it. Magic didn't do it. Bird didn't do it. Nobody's done it since Oscar Robertson back in the 60s. Respect the game. Give the man his award. Let's move on. Moving on. Moving on is a tough thing. It's a tough thing in any way of life. It's a tough thing for when you graduate and move to another school or onto another phase of life. It's a tough thing when you leave an organization or a job that you've been at for a long time. And that's something we're at now with The Undertaker. Now, some of you are like, oh, man, why is he talking about wrestling? Wrestling's fake, blah, blah, blah. Look, I grew up on wrestling. I grew up on the WWF. I found the storylines exciting and intriguing. It was like a comic book to come to life. Now, I realized it was predetermined. I realized at an early age there were writers. I realized at an early age that if most of the moves were actually done, the guys would be beaten to a pulp and unable to move. I also realized that you cannot fall from 6 feet on the ground or 6 feet above the ground or the mat and hit your body over and over again and say that that part of it is fake. Now, I appreciate they've gone to sports entertainment. That's a good title for them. They are athletic. It does take a lot of skill to not kill somebody doing what they do with a lot of the moves they have. And some of these guys, like The Undertaker, he was a professional wrestler in the WWF, WWE for over 25 years. His last match, he was in his early 50s at WrestleMania 33 last weekend. And I personally think that the WWF has done him wrong. I think it's a joke that they let Brock Lesnar a few years ago be the guy who ended his streak of WrestleMania wins. If anybody was ever going to take that streak away from The Undertaker, it should not have been a punk like Brock Lesnar. I don't like Brock Lesnar. I don't like him in the WWE. I didn't like him in the UFC. I think he needs to just disappear. I don't like the character he portrays. Now, I know that's not him as a person. I'm just done with him. I don't want to hear about him. I don't want these people to be promoting him as Godzilla, basically, anymore, when he's not. He's a tadpole. He was a great collegiate wrestler. He was a freak of an athlete. He had a bad disease, and he just needs to go away. He didn't need to beat The Undertaker. The Undertaker's last match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania should have been a victory. That's the respect he earned. I can remember getting to see The Undertaker live. He came to Denver. It was at the Denver Coliseum. He took on the Ultimate Warrior. One of my fondest memories, my dad took me. I believe my coach Mike was there with me. Can't remember Mike's last name, but he was my dad's friend. And, yeah, man, Undertaker, his career should have ended on a win, especially at the event that he basically made and didn't lose at. They didn't have him lose that until they, for whatever stupid reason, gave it to Brock. So The Undertaker will be moving on. And it's time. I'm sorry. These guys are in their 50s. I liked watching them 25 years ago, 20 years ago. It's time for these guys to move on and do something else and not just be wrestlers for life, if you know what I mean. Jerry Jones is looking to get rid of the marijuana ban in the NFL. That will probably help the Cowboys quite a bit, as they've had a number of players with issues down there with substances. Tony Romo is moving on to CBS as the number one anchor with Jim Nantz. Congratulations there. I do not like Phil Simms, not just because of how he calls Broncos games, but because of how he calls everybody's games. He gets stuff wrong all the time as a football expert. He sometimes gets a lot of stuff right. He's negative about one team almost every game, and it's typically not the team that you like. It's typically the team that's going against whoever's favored or whoever the media likes the most. And I just don't enjoy listening to him talk about football. Now, everybody can have a problem with that. He's been around forever. People think he's good. Great. That's your opinion. My opinion, a lot of fans' opinion, it's much different than that. So good riddance. Good job, Tony Romo. Move on. Get that money without getting your body beat up in the NFL. Marshawn Lynch, your body got beat up. You want to come back out of retirement to play for your hometown team. If the Raiders somehow sign Marshawn Lynch, you're going to see a very bad run game out of the Raiders next year. He'll get hurt, mark my word, at some point. Remember, he wanted to leave football originally because his back was getting beat up. 1 year out, I'm sure his back feels a lot better, but guess what? It's not fixed. It's not ready to go take that pounding again. This is just, oh, I'm bored. I'm still kind of young. I want something to do. Let me go play for my hometown team. And Richard Sherman trying to talk his way out. If you believe current reports, it was his idea for them to seek a trade. So I don't know what's going on up there in Seattle. Their Super Bowl window is most likely closing. Let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we'll get out of here. The good. Baseball is back. For all of you out there who still think it's America's pastime, even though I think that is traded over to the NFL, baseball is back. You got 6 months of baseball games to attend. And locally here, go Rockies. They are 4-1 on the season, currently taking on the Dodgers again today with Clayton Kershaw on the mound. And the big highlight for me so far early in the baseball season has got to be Madison Bumgarner on opening day, the pitcher for the Giants, hitting 2 home runs. The bad is the NHL stance on the Olympics in 2018, the Winter Olympics. They are saying their players will not participate in the Olympics. They're not going to take the break in the middle of their season anymore for the Olympics. I think that is a big mistake. And I agree with Alex Ovechkin very much of the Washington Capitals, who say, you know what? I don't care what they say. I'm going to leave and go play for my country because that's important to me. This is the peak of athleticism for this sport. For a lot of guys, that patriotism it's huge, playing for your country, being able to represent on that level. So I don't blame them. It's 7 to 10 games in that period. You could easily just get yourself suspended or fake an injury and go play. Work out an individual deal, or just walk away because you made enough money and you're going to say forget it. So bad call all around for the NHL on that one, in my opinion. And the ugly. The ugliest thing I've seen in sports, I have to say, this is not a rule breaker. This is not because somebody cheated or did something nasty to somebody. This Lexi Thompson situation at the ANA Inspiration, she was going to win the LPGA Major at the ANA Inspiration, and because a viewer called in on Sunday and said, wait, yesterday I saw this happen, where it looked and appeared that she misplaced her ball by, I don't know, a half inch maybe. She gets a 2-stroke penalty for that, and then gets another 2-stroke penalty for signing a bad card. So a 4-stroke penalty ends up putting her behind, and she ends up losing the major that she had handedly, in hand, was ready to win and take away, because some idiot at home calls in and thinks they're helping and doing the right thing. If this is a precedent we're going to start setting, that dumbasses at home, that drunk fools, or just people who might not Lexi Thompson or Phil Mickelson or the Detroit Lions or the Cleveland Indians, they're going to be able to call in and say, hey, look, you missed this call. I saw this on film. And they're going to go back and check that and then change the outcome the next day, not even in the same round, not even in the same moment. If it happens in the moment and an official there catches it, fine. But you don't let some fan call in on a different day and change the outcome of something that you didn't catch the day prior. I'm sorry. And here's where my language is going to get a little wrong. This is bullshit. She deserved that win. That viewer, whoever you are out there that called in and took that from her because you think, you got to play by the rules, or whatever your nonsense idea was to call in, go home. Stop watching it. Turn your phone off. You don't get to participate anymore. You have been banned, okay? Your athletic card, your sports card has just been pulled. That's some dirty, rotten, underhand, never should have happened type of stuff. I don't like it. It's ugly. Bad look for women's sports altogether. Bad look for the LPGA. So sorry for Lexi Thompson. And I get the argument, KP, it doesn't come down to one thing. She still had to finish that round. She only, ended up losing by a couple shots. She still could have done this and done that. Let me come pull some surprise stuff on you that you don't know is going to happen, that you didn't know you did, that you didn't do knowingly to try and get over on anybody, and completely surprise you with it right before you're about to perform and do something. and see if your game's not affected just a little bit. That's all.